I'm advocating for Tory Lanez because the evidence shows that he's innocent, and he deserves to be pardoned by Governor Gavin Newsom. You know, he's 100% exonerated from the gun, and for that alone, he should be home with his family.
Mr. Peterson never shot anybody, never even touched that gun, never fired the gun.
What if the biggest twist in the Tory Lanez saga isn't about him doing time, but about him possibly walking free? After nearly a year behind bars for allegedly firing at Megan Thee Stallion, Tory's name is now being whispered in the same breath as a presidential pardon. And the fallout has everyone from fans to rap royalty losing their minds. But the real shock? Megan and Jay-Z's inner circle might be scrambling behind the scenes to stop it. This isn't just another celebrity scandal. This might be the most unexpected power clash in hip-hop right now. To understand why a possible pardon is lighting a firestorm, we have to rewind to the moment everything changed. It was the summer of 2020, and what started as a star-studded night out ended with gunfire in the Hollywood Hills. Megan Thee Stallion, one of the most explosive new artists in hip-hop, was shot in the foot. At first, the details were murky. No one wanted to talk. Megan even tried to stay silent, until she didn't. She eventually named Tory Lanez as the shooter, a revelation that tore the music world in half. Some backed her immediately. Others claimed she was lying, exaggerating, or caught in some messy triangle. And Tory? He doubled down on his innocence, releasing an entire album full of lyrics, denying the allegations and painting himself as a victim of a media hit job. But in the courtroom, the tone shifted. In 2022, after a high-profile trial with emotional testimony, conflicting witness statements, and intense public scrutiny, Tory was convicted on 3 felony counts, including assault with a semi-automatic firearm. The jury wasn't swayed by theories or clout. They found him guilty. He was sentenced to 10 years behind bars. Still, that verdict didn't settle the debate. If anything, it poured gasoline on a fire. Tory's fans screamed injustice, calling the case flawed and the sentence excessive. Megan's supporters saw it as long overdue accountability in a culture that too often protects powerful men over black women. But just when things seemed to cool down, a new wave of chaos hit. In May 2024, Tory Lanez was reportedly stabbed in prison 14 times, according to some sources, with 2 collapsed lungs. He survived, but that moment shifted public perception again. Suddenly, people weren't just talking about justice. They were talking about safety, survival, and whether Tory even belonged behind bars in the first place. That's when the pardon talk started. And the people leading it? They weren't fringe fans. They were some of the biggest names in the game, and they had one goal: get Tory Lanez out of prison. The minute news broke about Tory Lanez getting stabbed in prison, the conversation shifted from, "He deserves this," to, "Wait, is this too far?" It didn't take long before Tory's most vocal defenders started mobilizing, but no one expected just how big the names would be. First came the petition. It started small, almost like a whisper, just another change.org link floating around. But within days, it exploded. Supporters claimed the trial was mishandled. The sentence was politically motivated, and that Tory was paying the price not just for what happened that night, but for being unapologetically himself in a system that wanted him silenced. The petition didn't just call for a reduced sentence, it demanded a full pardon. And surprisingly, some heavyweights stood behind it. Drake, who once had a complicated relationship with Tory, was reportedly aware of the movement and liked posts referencing the injustice. Amber Rose, who usually speaks out in defense of women's rights, shocked everyone by co-signing the petition, saying the justice system needs a full reset. Then came Kanye West, no stranger to controversy himself, who posted cryptic support for Tory and called out the selective outrage of the music industry. But the biggest surprise wasn't a celebrity, it was a politician. U.S. Representative Anna Paulina Luna, yes, a sitting member of Congress, publicly backed the pardon, citing gross mishandling of the case and suggesting there was more to the story than the media let on. She even hinted at urging California Governor Gavin Newsom to personally review the case. With the petition rapidly closing in on 300,000 signatures, what started as fan outrage suddenly turned into a potential political firestorm. This wasn't just about freeing an artist. This was about influence. Who has it? Who uses it? And who gets to decide what justice looks like? And while the pro-Tory crowd was making noise, the people on the other side, they were getting louder. Because not everyone was staying silent about what a pardon might mean, especially not Megan. While Tory supporters were rallying for a pardon, Megan Thee Stallion had one message for the world. She wasn't staying silent anymore. It started with a post, a short, sharp TikTok video where Megan didn't mince words. Her voice cracked slightly, not from fear, but from frustration. "At what point," she said, "are y'all gonna stop making me relive being shot by Tory?" It wasn't rehearsed, it wasn't polished, it was raw, and it hit harder than anything she'd said in months. She didn't name names, but she didn't have to. Everyone knew exactly who she was talking about. The pardon petition wasn't just a legal campaign, it was a public referendum on her trauma. Megan made it clear. She felt like she was being put on trial again, harassed, doubted, blamed, all while the man who shot her was being painted as the victim. "Y'all keep talking about new evidence like it's something real," she added. "It's the same recycled lies, same harassment, same people trying to gaslight the truth." And just like that, the narrative shifted again. Supporters rushed to Megan's defense, flooding her comments with messages of love and outrage. But the backlash was brutal too. Her DMs flooded with threats and insults. Entire threads tried to discredit her all over again. Even some high-profile influencers reposted her video, not to support her, but to mock her. For Megan, this wasn't about clout or revenge. It was about survival. She had already gone through the trial, the testimony, the breakdowns. She had rebuilt herself piece by piece. And now, just when it seemed like she could finally breathe, the world was dragging her back under. But what really made this different, what made it personal, was that the people pushing the pardon weren't just trolls. They were celebrities, public figures, people with influence. People who knew what had happened, but decided to overlook it anyway. To Megan, that wasn't just betrayal, it was a warning. And while she didn't say his name, the pressure was mounting on one man in particular. Because if Tory Lanez was going to walk free, someone powerful had to make that happen. And in Megan's world, there's no one more powerful than Jay-Z. In the middle of this firestorm, one name kept floating to the surface, not because he spoke, but because he didn't. Jay-Z. For months, the billionaire mogul and Roc Nation founder has stayed completely silent on the Tory Lanez case, despite being one of the most influential forces behind Megan's rise. He helped launch her into superstardom, provided her with top-tier legal backing, and once stood firmly in her corner during the trial. But now, as the internet splits into two warring factions, Jay-Z's silence feels strategic, and people are starting to wonder why. Some fans think he's playing chess, not checkers, that behind the scenes, he's mobilizing industry allies, applying pressure, maybe even pulling strings to ensure the pardon effort goes nowhere. Others think the silence means he's stepping back, distancing himself from the chaos, maybe even cooling off his support of Megan now that things have turned toxic. But here's where it gets really interesting. Whispers from within the industry say Jay's camp is livid, not just at the pardon petition, but at how public figures are treating the situation like a meme. According to anonymous insiders, there's been private outreach to platforms, warning them not to amplify certain pro-Tory narratives. A few online hip-hop blogs even quietly pulled posts they previously published defending Lanez. Coincidence or pressure? And then there's the deeper theory, the one people don't want to say out loud. What if Jay-Z is staying quiet? Because the pardon might actually happen. What if all the public outreach, the petitions, the political backing, they're not just noise? What if someone close to power is listening? Because if Governor Gavin Newsom or anyone on the federal level were even considering this, Jay-Z stepping in publicly could escalate the backlash tenfold. So instead of making a move, he's keeping his cards close, letting the drama unfold, watching, waiting. But here's the thing. When a man as powerful as Jay-Z doesn't say anything, people start listening anyway. And in this case, his silence may be doing more damage or more protecting than any tweet ever could. Still, even with all the secrecy, the tension, and the behind-the-scenes maneuvering, the story was far from over. Because just as things started to simmer again, the DreamCon drama exploded and reminded everyone just how divided the culture still is. What was supposed to be a celebration of culture, fandom, and Black excellence turned into something much darker, and it all centered around Megan, Tory, and a line that split the room in two. DreamCon, the annual convention built by RDC World and beloved by anime and gaming fans, has never been the kind of place you'd expect drama like this. But 2024's event was different. Just days after the pardon rumors hit full steam, a viral moment lit up social media like wildfire. During a panel, a rising YouTube star, known for his loud opinions and no-filter attitude, joked, "If Tory gets that pardon, Meg better skip the after-party." Half the room laughed. The other half went dead silent. Someone in the crowd shouted, "That's not funny." And suddenly, it wasn't just an awkward moment, it was a confrontation. Clips hit TikTok within minutes. Threads exploded. What should have been a harmless fan convention turned into a microcosm of the larger debate. People weren't just disagreeing anymore. They were choosing sides loudly. Some attendees even claimed they were harassed for wearing "Protect Black Women" shirts. Others said they got death stares for saying they still listened to Tory's music. Panels were disrupted. Creators were being pulled into arguments they never signed up for. It wasn't just fans. Big-name streamers and influencers started chiming in online, many of them walking a tightrope, trying to stay neutral, trying not to lose followers, but also trying not to look like they were ignoring the issue. And the worst part? Megan wasn't even there, but her name was suddenly back on everyone's lips all over again without her consent. Behind the scenes, there were whispers that DreamCon organizers had to step in to calm things down. Allegedly, private security was increased around high-profile guests. Some panels were rescheduled quietly. One source even claimed an artist backed out of a surprise performance at the last minute over concerns about the energy in the room. That's how deep this story had sunk. Into the spaces that were never supposed to be political. Into the communities that just wanted to vibe. Now, every event, every space, every moment felt like a test. Are you with Megan or are you with Tory? And this cultural divide, it wasn't just online anymore. It was bleeding into real life, real interactions, real consequences. But the next bombshell? It wouldn't come from a fan or a blog or a panel. It would come from Tory's own camp, and it would blow the lid off everything people thought they knew about the case. Just when the conversation around Tory Lanez seemed like it couldn't get any more chaotic, his team dropped what they called a game changer, an anonymous document leak, strategically timed and conveniently discovered by a well-known hip-hop YouTuber, claimed to show internal court communications, a mishandled witness statement, and alleged proof that someone tampered with evidence. The files were messy, filled with redactions, and frankly hard to verify. But that didn't stop the internet from running wild. Within hours, Free Tory was trending again. His lawyers came forward with a polished press statement, insisting the materials showed major inconsistencies in Megan's testimony and called into question the reliability of key witnesses. They weren't saying, "He didn't do it." They were saying, "You can't prove he did." And that distinction, it set the stage for a whole new level of controversy. Podcasters latched onto it. Viral Twitter threads dissected every sentence like a murder mystery. Legal TikTok creators began debating whether this new evidence could be grounds for appeal or even pardon-worthy. But there was one glaring issue no one could ignore. None of it came through official legal channels. There were no court filings, no reopened cases, just flashy PDFs, Reddit speculation, and a media blitz designed to make people question what they thought they knew. Megan's camp responded swiftly, though indirectly. A cryptic tweet from her best friend simply read, "Y'all still falling for the same lies. Can't gaslight the truth forever." Jay-Z's Rock Nation remained silent once again. But insiders say they weren't happy. One source hinted that behind closed doors, Jay's legal team had already begun quietly contacting news outlets, warning them not to run the leak as fact. Meanwhile, Tory's team doubled down. They released a professionally edited video full of courtroom sketches, voiceovers, and dramatic music, painting him as a man wrongfully imprisoned, betrayed by a corrupt system. It wasn't just a legal move, it was marketing, a full-blown image rehabilitation strategy. And the scariest part? It was working. Public opinion began shifting, slowly but visibly. Influencers who once sided with Megan started backpedaling. Fans who had been on the fence were now reconsidering. Tory's streaming numbers quietly ticked back up. This wasn't just a media stunt, it was a calculated play to rewrite history. And the more it gained traction, the more it seemed like a pardon wasn't just a fantasy, it was becoming a possibility. But there was still one major player who hadn't reacted. Someone who once had the power to make or break Tory's career. And when he finally spoke, everything exploded again. For months, Drake had danced around the Tory Lanez situation, silent in public, vague in lyrics, cryptic on Instagram. But he never outright picked a side until he did. It started as a surprise drop. No promo, no features, just a single cover with a black and white photo and one word, unbothered. The track? Anything but. Midway through the verse, he spit a line that sent shockwaves through the culture. Y'all believed Meg's story, but the footage got skipped. If the system ain't blind, why they bury the clips? That was it. No names, no confirmation, but everyone knew exactly who and what he was talking about. Within 10 minutes, Drake and Megan were trending worldwide. The backlash was immediate. Fans, critics, even artists tore into the verse, calling it insensitive, tone-deaf, and dangerous. But others applauded it as bold, honest. He said what everyone's thinking, one viral tweet read. Not enough people have the balls. Megan responded within hours, not with a diss track, but with a gut punch of a post. A photo of her in physical therapy after the shooting, the caption reading, "Since y'all forgot." No tags, no explanations, just pain, laid bare. And then came the ripple effect. Artists unfollowed Drake publicly. A few quietly deleted photos with him from their pages. Radio stations hesitated to spin the track. One major playlist briefly pulled the song before putting it back under editorial review. Meanwhile, Tory's supporters went crazy. They hailed the verse as proof that even the top dog believed something wasn't right. Fan edits of Tory and Drake flooded TikTok with captions like, "The real ones never fold, and they tried to silence us." But behind the scenes, insiders say there was real panic. Several Roc Nation artists allegedly reached out to Drake's team, demanding answers. One source close to the situation claimed Jay-Z personally made a call, not to threaten, but to warn. You just made this bigger than music. And he wasn't wrong, because this wasn't just a lyric. It was a statement from the most influential artist in hip-hop. The guy with the most streams, the biggest reach, the loudest voice. And with one bar, he legitimized doubt and fueled the flames of the pardon movement like never before. Suddenly, this wasn't just about Tory and Megan. It was about the entire industry. Who gets protected? Who gets punished? Who gets heard? But just when it felt like the battle lines were fully drawn, a completely unexpected name entered the chat. Someone with real power. Someone with the authority to make the pardon real. And what he said, it changed everything. Just when everyone thought this saga was confined to the music world, the story jumped straight into the political arena. Governor Gavin Newsom, the man rumored to have the final say on Tory Lanez's fate, broke his silence in a way nobody expected. In a rare press briefing, Newsom addressed the swirling rumors about a possible pardon. His tone was calm but firm. "We don't take these decisions lightly," he said. "Every case is reviewed with utmost seriousness, especially when it touches on public trust and community impact." But then came the real shocker. When asked directly about Tory Lanez, Newsom didn't deny the pardon talks outright. Instead, he acknowledged receiving a significant volume of correspondence from fans, celebrities, and even political figures urging him to reconsider Tory's sentence. "I understand the passion on both sides," Newsom continued, "but my responsibility is to justice and public safety." The governor's words sparked an immediate frenzy. Social media exploded with conspiracy theories, calls for protests, and heated debates. Supporters of Tory felt validated, sensing the pardon might be closer than ever. Meanwhile, Megan's camp called for patience and respect for the legal process, warning against rushing into decisions that could undermine victims. What made this moment even more electrifying was a leaked memo, allegedly from Newsom's office, circulating among political insiders. The memo suggested that the governor's team was quietly conducting a comprehensive review of Tory's case, with input from legal experts, community leaders, and advocacy groups. This wasn't just a standard procedure. It was a sign that the pardon could move beyond whispers and rumors into real, actionable territory. And the timing couldn't be more explosive. With midterm elections looming and public opinion deeply divided, any decision Newsom makes could have ripple effects far beyond Tory Lanez's personal fate. But for now, the ball is in his court, and the world is watching. Will justice be served, or will power and influence tip the scales once again? No matter which side you find yourself on, this fight goes far beyond Tory Lanez or Megan Thee Stallion. It's a raw clash about forgiveness, celebrity power, and the voices of survivors in a world that often tries to silence them. With the pardon debate heating up and major players staying tight-lipped or making surprising moves, the next chapter could shock us all in ways no one's prepared for. The question now isn't just who's right or wrong, it's what kind of message this moment will send to the culture, the industry, and the justice system itself. So here's where I want to hear from you. If Jay-Z finally breaks his silence, or Governor Newsom blindsides everyone with a decision no one saw coming, how would you react? Does this change what you thought you knew? Does it shift the balance in this long, messy story? Drop your take in the comments. And let's unpack this cultural showdown together, because this isn't just a headline. It's a conversation the world can't afford to ignore.